Yeah, I'm like, I don't think I should be talking right now. Awesome. Hey, chat. Hey, everybody. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still sweating from watching rock, paper, scissors. That was a lot more fun, a lot more crazy, a lot more adrenaline pumping than I thought it was going to be. So, welcome to our panel. Today, we're going to be talking about things from the physical health and mental health side of things when it comes to gaming and esports. And we'll get into some introductions. We've got a few topics that we're going to be able to spend some more intentional time on. And it's really important for you guys chat the whole time. If you have any questions, feel free to just pump the chat with your questions. We'll do our best to be able to get to as many of those questions as we can. And we will have an official kind of Q&A at the end of our panel. But again, just feel free to field any questions you guys have in the chat throughout our entire panel here. Okay. So just to begin with, we did want to speak again about our sponsor Herbaland. We have a few stories that, from a personal perspective, can kind of supplement, if you will, just how excited we are to have these guys on board as sponsors. I know for myself, especially when we're looking at their product being in the gummy form, when I was in my early 20s, I used to take those god awful like Centrum for Men horse pills. And one day, one of the pills decided it wasn't going to do what it was supposed to, and it got stuck. And I had an incident where I actually did have to go to the hospital. It was not a good time. But ever since that horrible experience, I've never been able to take like big pills, like big vitamins ever again. And so I've desperately kind of been seeking sometime kind of chewable or dissolvable type of a thing that I can take for my vitamins or pills. And so seeing Herbaland and that product be all gummies, I'm like, I'm all over that because I don't want to ever go through that experience again. So I know for myself that's it's a really good benefit, and I know that Christian has a similar story to share.
Yeah, definitely. Like I wasn't a pill that I almost choked on. It was like spaghetti. It was a strand that was really long and it like lodged itself in my throat and it was freaking uncomfortable. I had to like reach down my throat and pull it out. That's probably too TMI, but it happened when I was like a kid and ever since then, like I could not take pills. I had to like crush them up and then try to like take it with a drink, which is disgusting. It's so gross. But it was only till like a year ago where I could actually start swallowing pills.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love gummies more than anything. Like
Hmm.
in those times where like I couldn't take pills, and I mean like a lot of people take daily vitamin gummies, so these are a nice option when you're
Hmm.
considering that. So since Herbaland is sponsoring our panel, we have 3 gift cards to give away by the end of this panel. So if you stay tuned, stay in the chat, we're going to get Nightbot to compile all the list of names and then kind of do a random draw.
So make sure you guys stick around so Nightbot can do their job so you can be entered in for that prize. Okay.
Hmm.
So we're going to start off just by introducing ourselves. We're going to go with Kristen, Alex, and then myself. We're just kind of going to talk about a little bit of our story in terms of how we got to the careers that we're at. Some of us might share stories in terms of how specifically like video games or esports have kind of been a part of our story. And then we'll transition into talking about sleep. So yeah, we'll let Kristen kind of start with introducing herself.
Hey, so hi everyone. I know a lot of people in the Smash community are probably familiar, but just for those people who I have not met yet, Kristen. So I've been involved with the Smash scene since in Alberta since I was an undergrad, so quite a while ago, and ever since then, it's just been a great experience interacting with our community, getting to know everybody. I decided to do grad school in occupational therapy. It's funny, whenever I tell people I'm in occupational therapy, the majority of the response is, "Oh, like, can you help me get a job?" But it's so, like occupation in a sense just kind of means like our daily activities, and that can mean anything really, which includes gaming. So my goal with ASA, working with ASA as the executive for health and wellness, is kind of raise awareness about maintaining or improving our health, so physical and mental health. Um, so this interest started when I noticed a lot of people complaining about hand problems. So the more you grind, the more pain you get in your hands, and it actually prevents people from participating in this occupation of gaming. And I thought that was an issue that should be addressed, so people can continue to do what's meaningful to them, right? And like now we know that gaming performance isn't just like mechanical skill. It's not just about how good you are at a game. There's a whole bunch of other factors to take into account. So we want to take
Mhm.
a holistic look at gaming. So mental health, like cognition, so kind of like attention, um, physical health, ergonomics, etc. And that's my kind of goal in working with ASA, is to raise awareness for that kind of stuff in our community.
Awesome. Thanks. Alex, a little bit about yourself.
I've been quiet so far. I'm Alex, and I'm a registered provisional psychologist here in Alberta, working alongside Matt. We've had a lot of fun, and we're excited to be here today. I guess for me, in terms of gaming stuff, I will bring this all the way back to when the Xbox 360 came out. My brother found my old Mass Effect game, so I used to play all of that. And similar to that as well, I used to play Mario Kart, stuff like that, just for fun, never competitively. And yeah, my brother really got me into this space. He's an avid PC gamer along with all of his friends. So he really talks about the needs for some support for psychology and mental health and all of that. So he's been a big supporter on my journey through here, as well as Matt. So, and I'll let Matt talk a little bit about our roles with ASA after he's done introducing himself.
Mhm. So I have a kind of a funny story to kind of start off in terms of my relationship to gaming. But first off, my name is Matt Demwasak. I'm again registered provisional psychologist specializing in sport and performance psychology. And gaming has been a part of my life since I was a little kid. But the way that I got into it was, I think, a little bit unusual in terms of how a lot of other people got into it. I think a lot of kids, they would see the commercials on TV. They'd beg their parents, "Can I please get the Nintendo or the Sega?" For myself, my parents didn't let me play video games growing up, so I had to sneak over to the other side of my house where my grandmother lived. And over there, my grandmother had a Super Nintendo where I would watch her play Super Mario, Final Fantasy. Still to this day, my favorite game of all time, Lufia 2. And so I remember as a kid sneaking over and seeing my grandmother actually be the one to get me into playing games. And honestly, from there, I've had pretty much every console growing up, and gaming has been a huge part of my social life. Even now, all of my friends, we all PC game. But yeah, my grandma was the most amazing person ever, and so that was really sweet. In terms of the performance side of things, I grew up in a really athletic home. My dad played professional hockey. I played junior hockey up until, like a lot of people, injury kind of forced a different career path where I realized that even though as much as I enjoyed playing in really competitive environments, I really more enjoyed working with other people or teams to help them kind of be their very best. And so I kind of realized that after also coaching for a few years at the competitive level, that being a sports psychologist was the dream job. And a part of that dream, outside of like the athletic side of things, which is the other half of our company, Mind Buffs, that we do, it's been esport. It's always been esport. I have wanted to become a part of the culture that was being built in this community. And so the timing was absolutely absurd in terms of meeting Vic and Asa. Alex and I just sent a random email out to them. I was like, man, who are these guys? I've been searching for years for an organization. I don't remember these guys. And as a lot of you guys know, just the growth, how quickly things have moved with ASA, and just how incredible their value system is and their culture, and how just works so perfectly with Kristen's occupation and with Alex and I's. that our goal, our hope is that we can become a part of this ever-growing community that is not just known for just playing games, where we're actually able to help each other to promote health and wellness. For those of you who are interested in competing competitively, for Alex and I to take our experience, our knowledge of high performance, to be able to help you guys compete at the highest levels. I mean, as you can tell now, I'm just so excited with everything that ASA is doing, and yeah, I can't wait to start kind of helping out where we can. So that's a little bit about me. And now that those introductions are kind of set, we'll hand it over back to Kristen, where we'll kind of talk about our first kind of key topic today, which is going to be about sleep.
Right. So I'm not sure if anybody here follows my socials, but I sent out a tweet maybe a few days ago asking if anybody in the community was experiencing or had experienced problems with sleep. So whether that's troubles getting to sleep, troubles maintaining like a duration of sleep, um, etc. And got some engagement on that. And I just like know that sleep and um, not optimal sleep um, hygiene is so prevalent in our community. So I want to start this off by kind of um, talking about a partnership that is in the making right now with ASA and another psychologist. He's not here to join us today, but he goes by the name of Jonathan, and he's working with the Center for Sleep and Human Performances in Calgary. He's also working with Red Bull and other athletes, kind of screen and kind of treat or provide options for sleep apnea. So we know that in the esports community that anxiety is very prevalent. More disorders with sleep is more prevalent just because in esports there tends to be a more sedentary lifestyle. So kind of sitting in kind of one spot, whether it's PC gaming or console gaming, when people are grinding for long periods of time, they don't get the chance to kind of get up and get moving a little bit, taking those breaks. So what Jonathan, our psychologist, wants to do in our partnership is kind of provide that option for screening. So this would be running through Alberta Health Services, and it's totally free. So it's totally accessible to a lot of people, um, not having to worry about finances. So if you kind of contact them, we'll have more information on how to do that later on when we kind of solidify this partnership. But um, having that chance to get a screen, talk to a doctor or a psychologist about your sleep problems, and having them go through the factors of sleep hygiene with you, see what you can improve to have a better sleep. I think that's super exciting because I myself has have sleep problems here and there when I kind of slip from my sleep hygiene routine. And a lot of people also asked. So I got this question on Twitter about um, kind of drugs that can help you sleep. So a lot of people like to take pills or such that can help sleep. My response to that is that um, I would avoid the medicalization of sleep as much as possible. So there are definitely other things to try first before you
Mhm.
kind of jump to that route. And even if you do decide to go to that route, I would advise talking to a family doctor first before you try it. But sleep hygiene techniques include taking making sure that you associate your sleep environment with actual sleep. So you want to form that mental connection. Reducing screen time before you go to bed, maybe like half an hour, helps with the blue light, you know. Um, Taking electronics out of the equation when you're in bed is a huge factor. So when you're in bed and you're scrolling on your phone, your brain learns to associate scrolling and activity in your brain with your bed, and then it makes it harder to fall asleep when you're in bed. So I'm guilty of this for sure. Whenever you feel like you can't sleep and you automatically reach for that phone,
Mm.
so try not to do that.
Like reset.
Exactly, yeah. And even if you're rolling around in bed and you can't sleep, that's also forming a not a strong connection of sleep with your bed. So get up out of bed, try walk around the house. I know it's probably like even if it's like midnight or something. Try to read a book that's super boring. I have a textbook under my bed that I take out sometimes.
That's how I
Um,
slept in university, was reading my
yeah,
textbook.
Yeah.
yeah. There's tons of different strategies. I've heard that taking like a shower before bed to kind of relax the muscles.
Hmm.
But
Mhm.
I'm going to definitely try to make more infographics about sleep that I can release to the community later on. But we all know
Awesome.
it's important for performance, being
Hmm.
well rested.
Hmm. I think Alex and I can share a little bit about sleep as well.
Yeah.
You want to go first, Alex? Just kind of sharing some of the things that you've kind of
Sure.
seen and working with your clients.
Yeah, so I want to, there's 2 points I want to make. I know Kristen had mentioned taking kind of those sleep drugs before bed. I like to use kind of, well, our brain produces melatonin, and if we're constantly taking melatonin, for example, or another sleep aid, our brain's going to stop producing it because we're getting it externally. So if you are going to use those sleep meds, then I always say if you're going to do it, then at least cycle them through, do it for a week and then go off for a week or something like that if your sleep schedule is really messed up. But just again, to be cautious about it and go talk to a family doctor as well. The second point I wanted to talk about was if, and it's the same with whether it's, you're athletic and doing sports or gaming, but when we are gaming or doing something that our adrenaline or anxiety is produced, then it's going to make it more difficult to fall asleep, right? So examples would be like if I usually use hockey, for example. If you have a late hockey practice from 9 to 10, you're probably not going to fall asleep till midnight because your body needs time to relax and get all that adrenaline out of your body. And so, just to also be mindful of that. So, stopping at a time where you can allow your body to get some relaxation in. And, like Kristen said, maybe, yeah, turning your electronics off, having a boring textbook under your bed, something like that, just to help get your body into that state and ready for bed. So,
Hmm. We have all been victim to just one more turn. There are a lot of games out there that are psychologically developed to be able to just pull us in to do that one last turn. I don't know about you guys, but after winning, winner winner chicken dinner, after scoring an overtime goal in Rocket League at 11:30 at night, not exactly ready to just fall asleep right after that. You can't tell your adrenaline not to exist when you're playing games like that. And so knowing the kinds of games that you're playing even before bed can be really helpful. If you are playing more of a competitive FPS type game, you might need to shut it down even earlier because whether you are going to bed tilted or going to bed full of adrenaline because you played unbelievable, it's going to be difficult either way to fall asleep. Even just kind of, I want to kind of touch on that blue light that Kristen had talked about because she's 100% right. Um, I think by now most people have kind of heard the relationship between blue light, not being able to sleep. But I kind of wanted to provide just a little bit of kind of like neuro psychological kind of understanding as to what's exactly going on. So that front part of our brain, which is where we do most of our thinking, our decisions, our choices, when we are introduced to light, it just wakes everything up. The stimulus, it's just, am I supposed to be alert? I'm supposed to be thinking. I'm supposed to be processing, and it doesn't just shut off. I mean, you can learn how to control your focus and your breathing to be able to be present, but your brain still computes information for long periods of time afterwards. So even if you think you're taking a sleeping pill or you're listening to your soundscape of beautiful birds and wind, doesn't matter. That part of your brain, even if you fall asleep, is still going to be doing work. So you're cutting yourself short of the actual rest that you need anyway. Even if you feel like you're tired, if you've been introduced to screen right before bed, your that front part of your brain does not go to sleep at the same time, if you will. So really, really important. Okay.
We have a question right now in the chat.
Mhm.
So Neurologic asked, can you maybe speak to some of the common symptoms people might experience if their sleep hygiene might need improvement?
Well, I think the word that we hear most often is, "Oh, I have insomnia." Do you? Do you really? I don't know. I think that word gets thrown around a lot.
Mhm.
It's not normal to lie in bed feeling your heart or your head or your emotions racing back and forth all the time. Your body is constantly telling you that something needs to be self-corrected, that something needs to be returned back to baseline. And so if you are noticing that you're struggling getting to sleep, it's either a sign that, like Kristen was saying, your sleep hygiene needs improvement because you're not allowing your body or your brain to rest, or you've got some underlying stress in your life that you're not allowing yourself to process throughout the day. So as soon as you think you're ready to sleep and you're finally present and you're there, all of these thoughts and emotions that you've left behind throughout the day or the week are like, it's time. And they hit you all. So for a lot of people, those can be signs to kind of look for in terms of whether or not you are kind of experiencing sleep hygiene issues. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so just to add on to that,
Mhm.
if you're waking up from sleep and you're not feeling well rested, uh, just my own personal experience, I work in a hospital in acute care where I see a lot of patients who stay overnight in the hospital and they barely get any sleep. Um, there's a lot of noises going on in the hospital, people running back and forth, machines beeping, so understandably it's hard for them. But I noticed that when they don't get enough sleep and then I'm working with them in the day, they'll make decisions, like safety decisions, that are not the best. And that can be a sign that you're not getting enough sleep. So if you start going on autopilot more often, or you make questionable decisions throughout your day, that you wouldn't have if you were fully there, if you had your full kind of executive functioning in your frontal lobe, then that might be an indicator that you're not getting enough sleep and that your sleep hygiene might need some work.
Mhm. Completely.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay. I think we've got another kind of topic that we're wanting to look at, unless there's any other questions about sleep that you guys had.
There's one more. So Lolaf asked, how would these things change sleep loss if sleep loss is a symptom of something bigger? Like for me, I find it's at its worst when I'm depressive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You want to speak to that, Alex, or?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. So the difficulty when we're in those kind of like depressive states is that it's more difficult to kind of access some of those skills that we have to be able to kind of be present. Um, you can experience depression where it's just kind of like an overwhelmingness of too many emotions, or you've kind of become numb. But in terms of the long-term plan to be able to kind of help your sleep hygiene, if kind of you're experiencing more of those depressive symptoms, it's going to be more of a daily practice of kind of being aware of where your thoughts and your feelings and your body sensations are, and just trying to really just honor and show gratitude to what your body's trying to do in those moments, and just to stay as grounded as you can throughout the day. Because, like I said earlier, if we're not creating or allowing time throughout the day to kind of manage those thoughts and feelings, they will bombard us at bedtime. They don't just go away. We can't hide them. We can't delete them. They will catch up to us. So sometimes, for a lot of people that have those depressive symptoms, it's just that feeling of being trapped, or helpless or hopeless. And so there is no quick fix when you're experiencing more severe mental health symptoms like anxiety or depression. It is going to be more of a longer process, and of course there's going to be little things to improve your sleep in the interim, but it's going to be more of a longer process if those are the kinds of reasons as to why sleep is.
One of the strategies that a lot of my clients really like to use when they are having trouble sleeping, especially like Matt said, when it all just comes at once right before bed. The other theme that I tend to hear is the shower thoughts. If you're in the shower, sometimes they like to come as well. But a lot of my clients really enjoy just writing those thoughts down on a piece of paper beside bed, just because it helps get it out into the universe, and then they can go back and look at it in the morning. Or if you're stressing about all the things you have to do the next day, at least it's written down and you can go back to it tomorrow. But that also gives you almost like an external perspective into your thoughts once it's on paper and you've slept on it. So it might be something also worth trying and seeing if it's helpful for you or not. So,
Great question, though, and
hmm.
obviously a question that deserves a longer response and a more kind of personalized conversation for yourself. And we can kind of talk about at the end how, if you are looking to further that conversation, how you can do that for sure. Um, yeah, okay. So we're going to go on
Awesome.
to our next topic. And I think Kristen, again, kind of leading us off. Um,
Yeah, so we're gonna take just a minute here to change the layout of the stream since I want to share my screen and show you guys the graphic that me and Andrew kind of came up with. So stay tuned while
Mhm.
we switch over.
Everyone do a stretch, get some water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
posture check.
Yeah, wrench the back. Awesome.
Oh,
Welcome back.
yes, we're back with this awesome graphic. So this was intended to be a short and digestible infographic on 3 common ailments that kind of plague our community. So I kind of want to touch base on gamer's thumb and burnout most, and then we can kind of segue from burnout into more mental health aspects. Yeah, shout out to Gobs who helped me make this graphic. He's a homie.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, looks good.
So we called it no EXP waste. Recognize injury, know the symptoms. The more you practice kind of this holistic um, view of performance, so the more you upkeep your health, then the more you'll be able to continue practicing, to continue playing games, and then the more EXP you'll get. That was kind of the basis of what the title was. But jumping into gamers thumb, so I have a quick little exercise that we can all do together. So
Ooh.
to kind of screen this problem of gamer's thumb, are if you're starting to get the beginnings of it, we have what we call the Finkelstein's test. So we can all do it together. If you just take your thumb and put it into your fist like this, and then you kind of put your wrist towards the ground like this, and if you feel a pain along the base of your thumb, I feel a pain there. It's
Uh-huh.
not
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Guilty.
So that is a positive indicator for gamer's thumb,
Ooh.
aka de Quervain's tenosynovitis.
Oh, that one.
I'm just gonna check. Yeah, I'm gonna check the chat and see who has got pain here. Bob
Ow.
saying, "Oh God,"
Oh.
everybody's saying, "Ow." Yeah. So again, just the thumb in the hand and then down towards the ground, and you get that pain in the base of your thumb. It's a positive indicator.
Oof.
So what's happening here is that we have in gaming repetitive motion in our thumbs, right? It's and even in our daily lives, like when we were talking about phones before, when we're flicking around back and forth, this is aggravating the tendon that's coming up on this side of your wrist, and it's causing inflammation and swelling of that nerve, which causes pain. If you notice, as this progresses, you can get kind of swelling in the base of this thumb, this area as well. And then as it progresses, you'll notice it's getting harder to grip things. It's getting harder to kind of like pinch that action. And this can really affect gaming and how, like, especially holding that GameCube controller, right? Like in my own experience, it can get really tough and it prevents you from playing as you normally would. So what can you do? At the bottom here, we have some simple solutions. So what the cause of this is that repetitive motion. So obviously, if you take more breaks, take more time um, to rest that tendon, then it'll over time, it'll kind of resolve on its own, right? um, Applying ice if you're noticing that swelling and inflammation, so the ice can help bring that down. And then the last solution that we have, so immobilizing the thumb and wrist with a splint or a brace as needed. So this is a more if the pain is constant and rest isn't necessarily helping it for short periods of time. So what the idea of splints is that it will immobilize that joint and that wrist, so that even if you're tempted to use it, it'll prevent you from using it. And then it's useful to wear overnight as well, right? Um, the splint is designed so that you can go about your daily lives and still use that hand. Like the rest of your hands, your fingers will be free, but the key thing is that it'll mobilize that wrist and the kind of that this joint right here. But if you guys have any more questions on that splint, then definitely send me a DM or anything, and we can kind of talk about the details. But for now, the more reserved things you can do is just take breaks. That's the biggest thing,
Well,
really.
we all know that we have some work to do now thanks to your exercise. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the last one, I'll skip the carpal tunnel and we'll kind of just go into burnout since this is the more of the mental health aspect of it. So we all, I think, have experienced to some degree
Mhm.
burnout
Mhm.
when we've put all of our effort into practicing, into getting better, and then we just feel so drained
Yeah,
and
let's see that in
just
the
not
chat. How many of
motivated.
you guys have experienced burnout? I think it's more common of a thing than I think people realize. Yeah, like
Yeah.
100% guilty here. It took me a long time to recover. Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And this sucks because like this is a game that you're supposed to enjoy. Like competition is supposed to be
Hmm.
fun, and but when you're feeling
Yeah.
burnt out, you just feel so it can make you feel distant, not only from like the game, but also like the communities that you're involved with, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what can you do? So we already kind of covered sleep hygiene at a length before. Um, and then in our second, we have consider talking to a therapist or sports psychologist. So Matt and Alex will have more to say on this later. And then the last one we have is exercising and physical activity. So having like a balance to your life. So gaming isn't your only thing that you're waking up and you're doing every day, because when you put your whole like life on a game and then something happens and you have a setback and you feel burnt out, then it can affect your whole kind of life, quality of life, right?
Hmm.
So just having more exercise can really help that, like
Hmm.
remediate burnout.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you want to
So
touch on a little bit, sorry, if you're good,
I'm
Alex,
good.
kind of talk about burnout from your experience, and then I'll share mine.
Yeah, a lot of it, Kristen already mentioned, it just like seems like it all compiles and then affects every kind of area of your life, right? If burnout is something that's happening. Some of the common, I guess, symptoms or signs that I would typically see, whether it's myself included, like Matt, I think I've experienced burnout before. But again, I think it's a lot of going on that autopilot. You're kind of just going through the motions, but also, like Kristen said, being very distant or isolated. Sleep is a huge part of that, and balance, which is what Kristen I know already had mentioned. But I know when you're feeling burnt out, you might sleep for 8 or 10 hours, and still feel tired, right? And that's
Mhm.
usually your body telling you that there's something else going on and something needs to be addressed. Again, similar to what Matt had said before.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the most common ones I see. And I think Kristen mentioned a ton of ways to challenge that and to get back to normal. And yeah, balance is usually the best way too, as well. So,
Yeah. So I'll just share a little bit about actually my own experience with burnout, a lot of the experiences that I have working with people that have burnout, and then I'll transition this conversation kind of towards talking about mindful versus mindless gaming. It's very important for those of you that are gamers who are looking to improve your skill. Definitely, really pay attention and tune into that conversation. So my burnout happened out of nowhere. I thought I was doing fine. I thought, in my mid 20s, yeah, I can have two jobs, go to school, hold on to a marriage, my friends, and only sleep 5 hours a night. I'm sure that's fine, right? I can do that. And then one day, out of nowhere, I just had a panic attack. My body literally just told me, "Nope, we're done," and we're gone. I can't do this anymore. And for months, probably 6 months, my body was in this horrible state of Humpty Dumpty falling down and trying to kind of reorient myself. And a lot of the people that I see that experience burnout, It actually is more of an intense type of experience where all of a sudden just feels like basic functioning is just malfunctioning. And whether it's like head symptoms, like weird pain in your body, you're going to see doctors and practitioners, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And no one's able to kind of provide a clear diagnosis. It's probably burnout. When the body is working so hard for so long, and if you're not getting the rest that you need, certain parts of your body, it'll be random, will just stop operating, will shut down, will stop being able to perform at the optimized state. And so for those of you that are experiencing just random symptoms in your body, that might be your body also telling you, yo, dude, slow it down, take a breath, pay attention to what's going on, just something to kind of recalibrate your system and kind of pay attention to what your body's trying to say. And so, and kind of making that transition now, just really wanting to talk about mindful versus mindless gaming. Okay. We're all guilty of it here who have played games where we go on a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour like bender where we're just at it. Sometimes that's the plan. We got the day off. I just want to play video games by myself, soak up that introvert tank, or just to play with friends. But for those of you who are playing more competitive games, there is no benefit in playing that game for that long. Muscle memory is the ultimate ability. Whether you're playing in physical sports or esports, everything that you have done up until the moment of you playing that game is going to come through via muscle memory. But muscle memory isn't just acquired by mindlessly playing a game. It has to be intentional. There has to be purpose. When talking to professional athletes or esports athletes, if you are not setting goals in your training, I hope you're training. If you are just playing games and hoping to improve by just going in after match, feeling the tilt level increase, only taking a break because you feel like you're going to smash the monitor, none of those things are good. And so it needs to be intentional. And so whether you're playing, an FPS like Apex or Valorant or COD, being like, okay, I'm going to specifically work on like this loadout. I know that based on this type of strategy, when I'm at this point of the game, I need to be adept at like using like these particular weapons. But if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, picking the same loadout, if you're just going in after game after game after game, you are not storing that information or that experience into long-term memory, which is where we access that flow state, that muscle memory. So there's got to be intention behind even the gaming that you're doing. Like I said, if you're looking to do it and actually improve in that skill.
For sure. Like if we think of mental reserves as we do as physical reserves, like you know that you wouldn't be able to climb Mount Fuji like twice in a day or something. You would get too tired. But mental fatigue is like a real thing. Like we have a certain amount of mental reserve every day that we use. Every decision we make that we have to think about it, we're using that reserve. So if you're depleting your reserve and you're going beyond and you're insistent on keep playing,
Mhm.
it's not really giving you any benefit, and it's making you more susceptible to like being emotionally labile. So those rage, those
Yeah,
being tilted, those are all things that can happen easier because you're burnt out.
100%. Now, I did see a
Yeah.
question. Is there something you wanted to touch on, Alex? I can go to the question.
I just wanted to, yeah, talk a little bit about taking breaks and while you guys are gaming. There's a lot of research out that says 30 to 45 minutes is kind of the maximum we can focus and actually retain information. And I know Kristen can probably jump in on this as well, but when we take those breaks, take 10 or 15 minutes and go and do something with your body. Go for a walk. Kristen probably has some better examples, but get away from the keyboard, go do something, get the body moving, and then come back to it. And like I said, you notice that you're able to focus a little bit better and retain information more when you do take those breaks. So Kristen, I don't know if you have any ideas or anything
No,
from an
that
OT
was a good point.
standpoint for breaks or anything that people can do in their
Yeah.
breaks that you think would be.
Well, there's a lot of things. I know that people can tend to skip meals too if they're
Yeah.
grinding too
Yeah,
hard. Get a snack or something. Like think of
yeah.
your nutrition. Get
Eat
some sunlight.
something.
Yeah, definitely.
I know that in a lot of games, the ultimate goal is to build your character to have like an unlimited pool of mana. That's just not possible when you're human. That's just not
Mhm.
possible. And so without
Mhm.
rest, you won't be able to have that mana restored. And so if you just kind of think about it that way, that the energy that you're using, just like your mana pools when you're a lower or mid-level character, that's what you're working with. We don't have the ability to just be able to go at it every single day and to actually be able to retain that information that we're talking about. Now there was a question, Ace, you had asked, what are some early signs that you might be heading towards burnout or maybe a panic attack? Um, any thoughts?
Um, Early signs. I know, again, just I feel like emotions just pile up. Like Matt was saying, that's usually the first indicator is I feel like you might be in a situation where maybe something frustration should have come out, but instead anger is like this big explosion piece, right? Also, what Matt said, just like body signs would be a big one, and listening to your body. Everybody's so different, so it's hard to say like, oh, this is what would happen. Whereas I find panic attacks are more of those unexpected. In psychology, we would say, oh, they come unexpectedly, and they put us in almost like this state of panic, right? You can't move, you want to isolate, and you're in this almost like this fear state. But I find typically the panic attacks would decrease after about 5 or 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
whereas burnout I feel like would be a more long lasting effect, like Matt said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that.
Honestly, just to support what you said, our
Mhm.
body communicates to us in three distinct ways. It communicates to us through thoughts, through feelings, and through the somatic sensations, those physiological sensations that we experience. Every person is unique in terms of the kind of the strength to which those three things are communicated to us. And so it's going to be different from person to person in terms of being able to kind of recognize what your body is trying to tell you. I mean, I just worked with someone last week where they were like, yeah, like I don't have any negative thoughts. My emotions are fine. I don't understand. I just get consumed with anxiety and I try to figure out where it's coming from, but I don't understand. But for that person, the information lied in their body. As soon as they woke up, they would feel pain or pressure here. As the day went on, they kind of felt like the pressure was intensifying and it was compressing them more, or they were noticing their posture was turning more inward. I think Christian would see people that experience this type of stress. So the body can really be screaming at you to the point where, if we're not listening, panic attack can happen. Basically, your brain has tried in a million different ways to try to get your attention, and it goes, screw it, I'm blowing the lid off this thing, and then it just shuts the system down.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few more. I think there's a question here. Kirby, I like what you're saying here. Yeah, I love it. So Kirby, what Kirby has kind of brought up is really being intentional and specific with the goals that you're setting. Every single match, even though it's the same map, it's the same controllers, it's the same objective, none of those things matter in terms of improving. And so I love your idea for like fighting games, a good goal to focus on anti-errors or punishment. And so he's focusing on the process, not the outcome. The outcome is a bonus. If you win, holy crap, it's amazing. But to actually experience the games that you're looking for, you have to be really specific with the things that you are wanting to work on, train, or think about. And so if you're able to do that every single match, if your goal is to be focused, intentional, your body will tell you when it's run out of mana. But if you're in that mindless brain fog state where you just keep clicking away and shooting away, you won't even recognize if you run out of mana because you're just in dead space.
Just a second, guys. So we're gonna segue back into our 3-camera mode, and
Yep.
we'll take down this graphic just to have our closing thoughts and how you can link up with Matt and Alex. Maybe you guys can talk about how they can link up with you, and then we can go into our Herbaland giveaway.
Woohoo!
Do you want to go ahead and kind of talk about our launch and kind of how to get in contact with us?
Yep.
So yeah, if you want to go ahead, Alex, I was going to let you.
So Matt and I are a part of Mind Buffs. We are obviously practicing psychologists in Alberta. And to get in touch with us, you can either go on our website at mindbuffs.com and sign up for when we're going to launch, and we can send you guys some information as how to book. You can also DM us on Instagram or Twitter as well at mindbuffs. And so yeah, I don't know, Matt, do you want to speak about kind of what we are going to do with ASA and all of that? Or
So in terms of like our partnership with ASA, we're there in terms of like the grassroots kind of development growth aspect, like we had mentioned earlier. But the main reason why we kind of partnered is to be a resource for all of you who are watching, both whether you're part of ASA or are part of the community at large, and to be able to access as one-on-one resources. So if you've noticed even today, for those of you that were watching, that you've had any questions or you realize maybe there's some things that you would like to kind of talk about at a deeper level, that's what we do. Right? We create a space where we can have these more difficult conversations where even if you have friends or family who are really close and who are really supportive, the space that we have is non-biased, non-judgmental, third party. You can say everything and anything and it stays in the room. And that's just something that you can't get anywhere else. And there are just certain things that we experience as humans that kind of require that type of space to be able to kind of face a challenge with as much strength as possible. And so in terms of seeing us in person, our office is located in Sherwood Park. But the one benefit of COVID this year was just realizing how incredibly and surprisingly effective video psychology is. And so we have many clients who are still only seeing us online, which means that for some of you who are more isolated communities who may not have access to these kinds of resources in person, who cares? You can see us online. And it seems to be just as effective. There's even research coming out within the last couple of months. It's shocking me. I have to do more reading, but for there to actually be more benefits online than in person for some people, I know it sounds crazy, but the research is starting to come out. So we are here for the community. That's why we're here. We want to be available to everyone and anyone that has any questions or wants to spend time one-on-one to go more in depth with kind of what their story is and why it's been hard or where they want to go.
Perfect. So, not sure if you guys are ready to do the giveaway now.
Okay.
Sweet, thanks.
Good luck, everybody.
Loloff, yes! Love it.
Get your gummies.
All right, we've got 3 of these, so we got 2 more.
What?
Oh, is that Matt?
Reroll. Kirby.
Eats
Kirby.
pie. Yay. Congratulations. Yep. Oh, double letter. Number 2665. Congratulations, you guys.
Awesome.
We'll get into contact with you guys afterwards and send you those codes or gift cards for Herbaland. Enjoy.
So again, thank you so much, guys, for staying tuned and being part of this conversation. it's all of our hopes here, and I hope for you guys too, that mental health can just be a normalized conversation in the esport and gaming community. And again, feel free to DM us, message us, email us. There's a million different ways to get a hold of us. If you guys have any further questions, we'd love to kind of continue this dialogue here going forward. And you'll definitely see more of us in the future, and more content, more FaceTime, to kind of have these conversations. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning
Thanks.
in. Really appreciate it.